Rich and Greg here with you today. Excited to talk about one major topic. How do you take a satisfied customer to a raving fan? And specifically, so that you can get referrals by accident or on purpose, however you want to look at it. Ultimately, how do we get raving fans to start talking about us? How do we get that 83% of customers who say they want to introduce us to others, ultimately only being 29%? How do we change that? How do we take that 29% and get it way, way, way closer to 83%? That's what we're going to talk about today and a whole lot more. Greg, so happy to have you today, man.
Glad to be here. Great subject. Let's get into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to pull up this data because this data is one of my favorite data pieces ever, Greg. And it came from a study by Texas Tech. It was in the 2000s. I can't remember the exact date, but in a survey, in a study, they found that 83% of customers reported being willing to give referrals and also increase their loyalty, do more business with that supplier that they had referenced in their mind. Yet less than 29% actually did. And it's such an amazing research piece for me because it shows everybody that if you're looking to establish referrals and you're looking to count on people, to your customers, you're doing everything you can to get your customers to refer you. Even the happiest of customers, 83% of them are going to be dropped down to 29 that'll actually have that conversation with somebody.
Yeah, look at it in simple terms. I know what you do, Rich. I know what you do well.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest with you. I don't wake up each morning and say, who can I refer Rich to? You know, that's not my responsibility.
100%.
But if you give me a reason, if I'm thinking about the product or service that you're providing, if I've got something that's motivating me to proactively do that, that's a different conversation. I think that's what we're talking about. I think that 29% doesn't surprise me at all, because I think that 83% who feel good about a product or service feel good about a product or service. But getting them to, you know, get their cup of coffee in the morning, head to work, and talk about that, that's the opportunity.
Absolutely. And I think when I think about it, the 83% to the 29%, and I think about myself, I only know one friend in my entire network that will go on Facebook and say something such as, I had an incredible experience with my mortgage loan officer who refinanced my house, got me down to blah, blah, blah percent. Anybody who needs him, here's his cell phone number. I know that guy. Like, I'm thinking about him because of what we're talking about right now. But there's only one guy like that I've ever met in my life that will just in a party just start, you know, without any benefit to himself, just start throwing around names and referring people. The rest of us, I think it's super vulnerable for us to come out and stop conversation to start selling one of our relationships, partners, you know, whatever. So it makes a ton of sense that this 83% drops to 29. There's a bunch of reasons. I'm not the loudest person in the group. I have no reason to stop conversation and awkwardly bring up some other conversation related to that customer or that person, right? So if it's not, you know, natural for me to bring it up, why would I? Let's summarize what we've said so far. 83% of our best customers will say right today, I'd absolutely refer Rich and Greg, without a doubt. They're amazing people. Yet we know 29% actually will. And ultimately, what are we saying? It's not because of any reason other than the opportunity hasn't delivered to them. In order for them to start talking about you, in this case, that customer needs to be asked a question that leads to them having a license to start talking about their relationship with said brand. So that's, I think, the question ultimately that we want to post today and share with all of our Proforma insiders and ultimately anybody that gets a chance to check out this video. It's how do we take that 83% of your customers that want to refer you, and how do we create opportunities for them to start referring you? That's ultimately what we're talking about here today. Yep. So what I want to do is I want to first get everybody on the same level playing ground as it relates to promotional items. So anybody that knows me knows that I'm a big believer in strategic promotional items. I believe they're the strongest standalone tool there is in the entire world. And today I want to show that in the form of referrals. And we're going to have real live examples of situations with real customers and real experiences, good and bad. And we're going to talk about them so that we can all learn together about each of those examples. So first, there's a couple data points that we have to keep in mind and just be on the same level playing ground. So I want you to keep thinking about this. 83% of your customers are absolutely willing to talk about you. But like Greg said, one, you're not always on their mind. As soon as they've got 5,000 ads hitting them and brands hitting them on a daily basis. They've got their own personal days. They've got their own thoughts. They got millions of thoughts every day. They're not committed to just finding ways to get you business. It's not what's going to happen. So you need to create those opportunities for them. Well, how do you do that? Well, promotional items are a very strategic way to make someone feel special, make your customer feel special, show them how important they are. You have the decoration of the product that can be specifically designed and geared towards a message that reinforces how important they are, how much you value them. And then, so you have impressions, and let's just stop there for a second. Promotional items have 6,100 impressions every 6 months, depending on which category you go with. So you see all these categories above right now. Each category is going to be different, but ultimately be thinking about, look at how many thousands of times these gifts are constantly in front of your customers, reminding them how much or how important they are to you. But also think about it from the opposite perspective. If you're giving these customers these gifts that they then take out into the wild, if you're creating designs or gifts that have a wow enough factor, and we're going to talk about that, it will then, what we ultimately want to do is create a conversation back that we need people around your customer to ask them, hey, where did you get that? Because as soon as we can get that, where did you get that question out, endorsements and referrals fly. So right here, we're talking specifically thousands of impressions that are happening in each category. Then you want to look at staying power, which to us, all that means is for every time I give a customer a piece of outerwear, as one example, it's 16 months on average reported by buyers. That's how long they're going to keep that gift. That's how many times they're going to take it out. That's how many times they're going to run into other people. They're going to see people in the grocery store. They're going to be at their jobs, at their facilities. It's that many times they're going to have that opportunity for someone to come up to them and go, that is really cool. And I want to pause for a second and remind you that if you're giving a gift that just has your logo on it, chances are nobody's going to ask a question about it. They don't need to. It says a brand. There's no question. But if it's something creative, and we're going to talk about that today, if it's creative and it hits specific points, you're going to get conversations and endorsements that happen all the time that go back to that 83%. The focus is, how do we get the 83% to get asked one question? Where did you get that? And now the endorsements can start. And now you can start boosting real referrals. And by real referrals, I mean, you've got 83% of your customers that love you, trust you, love everything that you do. You do great stuff. Now you get them talking about you, starting by how they got this really amazing gift given to them at some special time. And then it gets into what you do for them. And it's just the best endorsement you could ever ask for. And last data point that I want you to pay attention to is 85% of your customers who you give a gift to in this wow moment strategy that we're talking about for referrals, 85% of them will be able to remember at any point in the year your brand and when or what you gave them. 85% will say, yes, it was this company who gave me this, and it made me feel special. And I was more likely to do business with them as a result of them giving me this. It's that powerful. So it's a recall rate is what we call it, but 85% of your
there is
customers are going to remember. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, Rich, there is no other, tell me a medium that compares with that. Most retention rates on advertising of any kind are in single digit numbers. And you look at the cost of, and yeah, I can remember some of the Super Bowl ads. Some of them I don't even know what they were even selling, and they pay 7 figures, sometimes 8 figures for that spot. And you look at something as simple as a promotional product that fits in all the categories you just check the boxes on, and an 85% retention rate. It's staggering. It's a staggering number.
Well, and it makes sense. You're making people feel special. I mean, it's 1-to-1 if you're doing it right. You're making people feel special, and for that reason, they remember. You're not advertising at them, you're appreciating them, and it's a completely different process. So let's go, Greg, into your story first. I want to get into like real stories so that people can make some great connections with what we're talking about. So
absolutely,
I'm going to let you share the story because I know there's bits and pieces of this that you're okay with sharing and parts that you're not.
No, I'm all in. I'm all in. So, all right. So I just mentioned my wife. And you know, I'm a big believer, happy wife, happy life. So we had been saving for quite a period of time. And my wife has always wanted a convertible. Okay, so this has been a big dream of hers, and she wanted a convertible. And I was like, all right. So we've been saving, and finally kind of like, okay, we're ready. We've got the budget for it. Let's go get it. And she wanted to, so we looked around and we went with a pretty reputable name, BMW. Okay, so it was interesting.
For the listeners, Greg, what model are we talking here?
We're talking 4 Series. So hard top. I wanted a hard top. So hard top. All right. So we found, we looked, and
congratulations, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Well, I don't drive it, so
you're not allowed.
Again, wife for the present for the wife, and that's fine. So that being said, we looked, and first and foremost, let me talk about the experience on the front end. And I think we talked a little bit about this before. You reach out to these dealerships and et cetera. You get these very dry, canned, almost robotic responses. And this salesperson reaches out, and this is during kind of the pandemic and whatnot, takes a video and it says, hey, Greg, I hear you're interested in this, and he walks from his office out to the car lot and takes me on a virtual tour, talking to me the whole time. And I went, wow, like he took it to a whole new level. So let's talk about that.
Are we saying live or recorded?
No, this was recording, sent it in an email, but was clearly talking to me. This wasn't a canned thing that he sends out. Like he recorded this, took about 2 minutes, but actually walked me out to the car virtually through his phone and sent it in an email. I'm like, wow, this is taking really to the next step. Most people say, do you have any additional questions about the car? Like, he actually walked and showed me the car. So it got me in a car to go see the car, right? And I let him know it was a bit of a distance to go. And he says, hey, let me know when you're on your way, etc. And the whole experience was amazing. Like, I met a bunch of people. He called me because he knew kind of how far I was. He says, hey, how far out are you? I said, 15 minutes. He says, great. What kind of coffee you like? I was like, oh, I'll take a, black or whatever the case may be, and no sugar. And so he had a coffee waiting for me.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there going, wow, this guy is just hitting it on every step of the way. Everybody used either my first name or Mr. Armstrong, and the process was amazing. And we were ready to go. I mean, we were ready to buy it. This was the car, et cetera, et cetera. Just wanted to make sure there wasn't missing wheels or something.
Sure.
And so we go out there, we make the purchase. And it was interesting afterwards. And a couple of times I was waiting, I was looking at their gift shop. I was looking at some pretty cool items that were in there. I'm thinking, wow, I guess I can officially wear some of this stuff now. If I'm an owner of that vehicle, then I have a right to wear some of the merchandise or buy a tumbler or whatever the case may be. So I looked at it, glanced at it. Some things caught my eye. That being said, made the transaction, drove away happy. Wife is extremely happy. So I get a call About 30 days later, right afterwards, how did you like it? Great, thank you, thank you, thank you. And clearly he was looking for referrals. He'd give me a couple of his cards. He says, hey, if you know of anybody, I'll take care of them, et cetera, et cetera. Great. And, you know, nothing came to mind. But he follows up 30 days or 3 days later. And he says, hey, just wonder how things are going, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, well, hey, anything I can do for you, let me know. And I said, well, you know, I kind of had my eye on one of your hats. It was in the you know, in the shop, in the gift shop. And I said, yeah. He says, okay. I said, yeah, it really looked good. He goes, oh, I'm happy to, you know, take your credit card and we could order you one. And I went, no, I was really looking to maybe get a deal on it. He goes, well, I can see about maybe cutting you a deal on it. And I'm going, I just dropped how much on your car.
Yeah.
And even though you have this ridiculously overpriced hat in your shop, he just couldn't get through it. Like, what part of go pay for it out of your own wallet don't you get?
Right.
And I'm not, and again, I wasn't trying to be pretentious. It's just like, I really had my eye on this thing. And yeah, I could probably purchase it. But what a missed opportunity from a perspective of, if I'm wearing it or my wife's wearing it, driving around, you know, I'm in Orange County, California, top down, everyone we talk to or see is going to see that hat in that car. And anybody seeing us walking around with it or whatever the case may be, heck, not just for me, get one for my wife. I would get one. Hey, great. Which one does your wife want? You know, she's driving it most of the time. And he just completely missed it from a perspective of, you know, you're talking about a very small token of, hey, thanks for coming in. Thanks for purchasing the car. And you expect me to go give you and just hand you referrals. And I don't have anything other than the coffee that I consumed in the 4.5 minutes that it took me. I have nothing that's attached to that experience now, other than the car.
So how much was that hat that you said was ridiculously overpriced? I'm curious.
Cost or sale?
if you know,
I mean, just the sale price on that. And again, in a gift shop, in a dealership like that, it was probably $30.
$30.
Yeah. Okay. And I can tell you, I spent well over, you know, 1,000 times that.
Yeah.
Well over 1,000 times the cost of that hat.
Absolutely. So let's document this. We talked about the opportunity, so having a great experience, and then where you can put wow moments in there. So you went online and you expressed interest in a Beamer.
Right.
Your response back came in email format. It was personalized to you, unexpected, meaningful. He brought all kinds of data to you and went way above and beyond. He then invited you to come in. Then as soon as you and your wife are on the road, he's got the entire team knowing you by name. Everybody in the dealership knows who you are by the time you pop in, and you've got Starbucks coffee waiting for you.
Bingo.
And then you said it yourself. You could hear it in your story that service was out of the park. But then after you left with your car, was there anything given to you that would start conversations after the fact?
Nothing. All I had was the keys in my hand and the car I was driving in.
Okay. So let's use this one as a great follow or a great example of what we're talking about. The sales experience or the experience was great. I think if this were my company, that BMW dealership was my company, and I knew everything that I know here, the very first strategy I would change, I would have a BMW branded tumbler waiting for you and your wife with your coffee in it. Why? Because I'm already spending $19 a cup of coffee at Starbucks anyways. After you're done drinking that coffee, all that branding is thrown away. There's no more conversation starters there. we know that drinkware is, I believe, 3,400 impressions every 6 months. So that $19 is well spent when you break it out over 3,400 impressions.
And where am I going to go, or more importantly, where's my wife going to go with that tumbler on her way to work with a hot cup of coffee in it? It's going to go right into the company she works at.
Absolutely. So let me rephrase that. Drinkware's 1,400 impressions. It's the hat is 3,400 impressions, which they could have gotten you 2 of those. And the total would have been $60, but call it $80, right? You already said you over 1,000x that and giving them revenue. But that $100 that they might have given you comes out to 64 plus 14. That's 78,000 impressions over a year of continued branding, where somebody would come in contact with you and your wife and have a conversation. That's just drinkware and a hat. I would also, at your 30-day mark, ask you to come back in and get something else, whether it's a key fob, whether that's, I mean, right. I'd be looking for every which way to get a charger in your car. I'd be looking for every which way I can to get other products on you that start conversation where somebody comes up to you and says, hey, Greg, where'd you get that? That is so cool. And there's a minor note here. With this example, they could totally give you BMW branded gear. They could totally do that. And you would love it because BMW is a brand. I mean, it's a brand, right? And so it's something to be super proud of. But imagine if they took in some of these products we just described, tumbler, hat, key fob, charger, Sherpa blanket in the back for the car, any of these ideas. What if they took the brand focus out and instead made it about Greg and his wife being a first-time BMW owner, or what it's like to be an owner of a BMW, or what that means, like what you're going to achieve by having this BMW, and instead made it way more about your achievements, so that when somebody saw it, it didn't immediately say BMW, and then I don't have to ask a question like, cool, you have a BMW hat. But if it said something like epic owner, now I have to ask Greg, whoa, there's curiosity involved. Greg, what does that mean? That is so sweet, right? Where did you get that? I want a hat that says epic owner. And you're like, well, you got to go buy a BMW from this dealership located in this location and talk to my boy because he's bomb. You know what I mean? That's right. The difference. Almost identical scenarios here, yet without having an intended, wow moments. They did a great job, but it was missing those wow moments that would have been the whole nother level. Yeah, anything that you would add to this story, Greg?
What's that?
Any other things that you would add to this story?
I would just say that the lead up to all the energy that was put into getting the acquisition, right? Yep. Closing the sale. What a missed opportunity in terms of the lifetime value. Like buying a car doesn't have to be a one and done. I'm a lifetime value account. So why wouldn't you look at that as an opportunity for multiple referrals, not just one, but multiple referral opportunities, and make me a raging fan as opposed to a satisfied customer. There's a big difference between the two.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And in fact, I don't blame this on salespeople. I don't think this is the salesperson's fault. I mean, they're just not trained. This is an opportunity as the owner of this dealership to change the mindset of how people are thinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's go example 2, because most of my listeners are not in dealerships. They're B2B. They are in a lot of cases industrial, manufacturing, insurance, financial. So they're complex sales. And although a lot of them are probably driving BMWs, they are not selling in the B2C space. So I want to use a different example. I have a client who offers LinkedIn and PPC, so Google pay-per-click. They offer PPC appointment setting. So basically, their job is you tell us who you want to meet with. We spend our time on LinkedIn and Google. We spend the money to get you a lead, and then you pay us for that lead, and you pay per lead price. Okay. Sure. So they came to me and said, our retention is not where we want it to be, but our product, our service is amazing. So we want to upsell and we want to keep clients longer, but at the same time, we can't deliver any better. Like our campaigns are absolutely amazing. And I thought, man, what a great project to get involved in. This is cool. Like if your service is what you say it is, and for sure it is, what's going on? Well, when I dove into it, Greg, I started finding out that their customers had other problems like closing the leads. Like the leads were quality, but having the right salespeople, having salespeople focused, having salespeople prioritize that lead, having salespeople document where the loss was and why it happened, how to overcome specific objections. Started learning all these challenges that the customer felt they had no control over. And I thought, well, you could continue to look at those problems as if you don't have control over them, and then face the results, which is customers leave you purely because, not because of you, but because they haven't figured out what they need to figure out to best utilize your product, or you could do something about it. And in maybe some different terms, they said, okay, Rich, we'll give you a try. It was a little more aggressive than that. Like, hey, we'll hear you out. But I'm like, all right, cool. So ultimately, I want everybody to think about this because I think it's also wow moment opportunities here, big time wow moment. So they deliver they deliver in amazing ways as far as the LinkedIn and PPC leads. But I identified the very first problem is salespeople don't know how to overcome specific objections. And when you get a lead that you can't overcome an objection, you're stumbling and you're like, the lead is now gone. So the customer spent, I don't know, $500 on that lead and it turned into zero because the lead wasn't handled correctly. So the very first idea we had was, let's create objection handling cards. And as soon, yeah, that's the exact face they made, right? They're like, oh yeah. And then what we thought was, what we're going to do though, we're going to give this to the VP of sales. We're going to work on it with them. We're going to produce it for them because I'm thinking, how can we help the customer be successful, right? So I get with my customer and we say, let's figure out all these objections that your customers are facing so we can put an objection card together. We hand that out as a gift to every salesperson that's a part of our program. Sure. So now we sold the deal. They do all that amazing experience that we talked about, but now they give out these cards. And these cards are designed to help salespeople be ready to handle a specific objection. Here's the answer, and do it for like 25 card deck kind of thing. In case anybody's trying to figure out what it looks like this. Here's the objection. Here's how to handle it. Brilliant, brilliant card concept. Then the second thing we talk about was, now what are you doing to celebrate the achievements when salespeople start to close deals? And again, my customer, just like most people I run to, they're like, they won the sale. Why? What do you mean us celebrating? You created the achievement. Why wouldn't you want to celebrate with them? You're helping them on their journey to getting better. Your product is helping them succeed. Why would you not want to be a part of the celebration? Like that's where I'd want to be all day long. So they said, wow, that's okay. That's a great idea. What would we do? So I finally got my chance to present a WWE Sales Championship bracelet. Yes. Because
a double click now. Where's the picture of that? Come on.
Oh, it's gorgeous. So we've got a WWE. In fact, I'll post a couple of what I'm talking about. Sales Championship belts. And what this customer is going to do is have a belt produced for the company as a gift in the first 30 days that they sold the program to. So you get the objection cards right away. 30 days later, you're getting a sales championship belt. And the belt is designed to be given to the salesperson who closes the most leads provided by my customer every month. And now the sales VP, the sales leader, no longer, it's one way to recognize their people without having to think about it. It was given to them as a gift. So we've handled objections and we found a way to make recognition of salespeople fun in the same example. And so here's two examples where now I would just want you to take a step back now and look at this. It's like delivering the product was good. They do a great job, better than anybody else. But there's still ways to take that to a whole new level. There's still ways to help that customer feel even more important. And there's still ways to go even deeper with them. And those objection cards and that sales bracelet, or that sales belt, those two pieces will be talked about forever. In fact, I just want you to think about the fact that when the salesperson gets their belt and they post it on social, and every single human sees that sales belt, how many people are going to go, where did you get that belt, dude?
And why?
And why? So that salesperson gets to talk about how awesome they are, mixed with, I got it from my organization. And when the VP of sales is posting that picture of his salesperson getting that award, and that VP of sales, other people like him go, dude, where'd you get that sales belt? That's amazing. We're talking about lead generation company who just did a little bit extra to show them how important they are, so they could turn, like you said, and I want this to be the theme of the event, theme of the call today, it's Raving Fans, taking them from satisfied customer to Raging Fan. That's where we get referrals. That's where we get loyalty. That's another example.
Absolutely. I mean, in the Raging Fans, it's interesting. People want, misery loves company, but so does victory. And what's interesting is that, hey, I've got this new product or service I want to tell people about. I want people on board with it. You know, when people whine or complain about something, they want to gather other people to validate their negative feeling. But equally, when you have a great feeling, you want others to be a part of that. You know, you want the attention of that. It's like, 100%. Hey, I had this amazing experience. I want to share it with some people, et cetera. So there's a viral nature to what you're talking about. And it works both ways. And if you're not creating the positive experience, you run the risk of running the negative experience.
100%.
And so, yeah, I love it from the example of now you've created a super unique memory. And I still want to see that picture. But that being said, anybody wearing a championship belt like that is going to spark conversation. It has to. It's hard not to spark conversation. What is that? What is that for? Because it's not something you see, and wildly relevant. It's an interesting story, you know, for the person to tell. And it all stems from the product being super unique to that particular application.
100%. 100%. So let's do one more example for the group, so that we have 3 different examples. We've talked about B2C and dealership auto. We talked about B2B lead generation. My third one is going to be, can be B2B and B2C. It's going to be real estate though. And it's another program that I have learned through agents that is a huge, huge need. So main story here, I think almost everybody I know has bought a house. So anybody listening, hopefully you've bought a house before. And you know the experience of you'll talk to an agent, they'll help you find a house. If you already have a house, they'll help you sell it. And then you're looking for a new house. They go through the whole process of helping you figure out exactly what your dream home might look like. And then ultimately you close the deal, you wait the 30 days for all the financing and stuff to happen, and then it's move-in day. And the realtor is sometimes there, sometimes not, but you get your keys, you move in, then it's hectic from that point moving forward. It's just absolutely nuts. You're trying to move in, you're probably under a timeline. You thought you were going to move yourself, found out that couch weighs a ton more. You thought it was 1 U-Haul trip, turns into 7. Like we know all that. So realtors, when we first signed our first real estate agency up, we started to learn that closing gifts were kind of a thing, kind of not a thing. Some agents were like, yeah, I give closing gifts religiously. Absolutely. And some had a plan, like if it's a $150,000 house or more, I spend 50. If it's below that, 25. If it's above 175, it's this. Like they had this plan. There were all kinds of various approaches to it. And then asking them what they purchased, it was quite the thing. Like, I only remember the obnoxious ones at this point, but it was, I think everybody should have an American flag, so I buy an American flag. Everybody should have one in the front yard. I heard that. I heard, I just get them a gift card to Home Depot because the Lord knows they're going to have something to do. or we'll get them we'll order them flowers, and I go to a couple home goods shops and I put some stuff together based on what I saw in their house that I liked. Okay. And all of those different ideas, there are different levels of efforts, there are different levels of you name it. But what I started to realize, and this is a very important point to make, is started realizing the impression return was really low. So I mentioned earlier with the promotional items, how you get specific category, specific impression share. So what I look at is if you buy a $500 dinner and you have the dinner, that's one impression, $500. That's expensive. You buy one hat, it's 3,400 impressions for $30, like Greg's example. Now that's pennies, right? The difference in shares of how many different conversations and or loyalty building impressions you get. So with agents, I started realizing that if you don't have something that's unexpected, meaningful, relevant, and no strings attached, if you're giving them things like gift cards, you're forgotten fast. And by the way, who's coming to you asking you about how you got your gift card? Nobody. The American flag, it better be the size of your street for anybody to want to talk to you about the American flag, right? Like I'm not being you know,
Well, it's gotta stand out.
It's
It
got
has
to
to
be
stand out.
talk-worthy.
Yeah.
Exactly. And,
Yeah.
and a flag isn't. And
Yep.
then also the person who buys $100 worth of dishes and stuff that they put all over, it's not talk-worthy. And by the way, if there are any agents listening right now, the Cutco knives with your logo on it, they're not visible, they're branded, they have strings attached. They're not, just stop with the Cutco knives, please. Like they have to be dropped. Like they're not a great idea.
I want to add one thing in there, Rich. You touched on this, and this is, I think it's an important stat or way of looking at gift cards. Okay. It's first and foremost, I think it's non-personal and lazy. If you're doing just gift cards, you've really not put any thought. And while a Home Depot card might be relevant, you really not put a lot of energy into it. And here's the other thing you just did. You monetize the value of their business.
Yeah.
You put a price on it. And just like I said, I spent well over 1,000 times what that hat was worth, even though because I knew what the hat was worth. Had he just given it to me, I probably wasn't thinking what the cost of that hat was. But if you give somebody a gift card that says right on the front of it, $25,
there's a monetary value.
Yeah, you just dropped 6 figures on a house. Wow, you really, really left a bad impression in there. Like, wow, my 6-figure sale to you is worth $25. You just monetize the value of their business.
Yep. So going back to our goal is, how do you create raving fans, and how do you get over this 83% of customers wanting to refer you to less than 29%? For a real estate agent, what we have focused on is what's the most visited room in the house? Where do all parties congregate? Where is the most time spent in a home? It's the kitchen, without a doubt. In fact, the latest study, and I have time to do this, the latest study I found says that the average American visits the refrigerator 14 times a day. It's craziness, right? It's absurd. And those numbers are not COVID updated. So can you imagine now? Like it's probably crazy. So what we're doing with agents is, instead of, like Greg said, meaningless, unpersonalized, universal, generic, we create signs. And I'll post some signs on the video here so you can see them. There's personalized, last name, establishment date, when they bought their home. It's all about them, and it hangs in their kitchen for one specific reason, about two. I every day want somebody to go towards the refrigerator and see a sign that came from my agent that says, you know, Armstrong, established date on the house, or the date you closed on your house. I want you to see that every day and go, my agent is amazing. And that is such a cool sign. And number two, I want people to walk in and I want them to look at the sign and go, Greg, that's really cool. Where did you get it? That's that like you keep hearing me repeat that. I need people to ask, where did you get that? Because as soon as that's asked, Greg's gonna smile and go, I got an agent that is bonkers. He came over to drop my keys off, opened up the back seat. The sign was damn near the size of the entire car by the time he pulled it out. And now I got it up here because I think it's so cool, and I'll probably never take it down because it's got my name written all over it. And it looks sweet, right?
Well, think about the term that, and I don't like referring it to it because it has a pejorative tone to it. But in this particular case, it describes what we said, swag, stuff we ain't got.
That's funny.
Right? Think about it. It's stuff we ain't got. So if I go into your house and I see that sign, that's stuff I don't have. You have it. Where did you get that? I don't know where to get that. That's a cool thing that I don't have. That stuff we ain't got. I want to get that.
100%, man. I love that. I love that. So those are 3 examples of what we're talking about, of, you know, having this experience that you have probably fine-tuned and dialed, and you've got a great experience, but where can you insert wow moments? So Greg, if you are, you know, listening on this call right now, listening to this video, I should say, and you're hearing this, and you're like, okay, I want to create some wow moments. What do you recommend? How do you simplify everything we're talking about today, Greg, and make it easy for somebody to get started?
For getting referrals in that fashion.
Creating the wow moments, I would say that. Yeah.
Well, it's what we're talking about is creating organic referrals. Again, going back to kind of the flow, right? We can wait for those opportunities to serendipitously happen between our clients, our customers, and the person that we hope they would refer us to. But creating that wow moment where they're attached to that moment and attached to that brand, I would say first and foremost, think through the process. Okay. And what I mean by that is you've got to step outside yourself and be the customer for a minute. And I don't care that you're in B2B. I don't care that you're in B2C. You have to think like the customer. Think of all the things you buy or purchase or you know, the services you have done for you, and think about what makes that moment exceptional. Okay. If you've ever gone to a restaurant, if you've ever, you know, bought a service from a business standpoint, B2B situation, what made it special or what made it unremarkable and you would have liked to have seen better? So you have to be the consumer first and foremost.
Of your own brand experience.
Correct. Of your own brand experience. You gotta, in other words, don't believe your own press for one moment. Step outside of yourself.
Love it.
And understand what those steps are. What process did they go through? Okay.
Yeah.
Then you got to think about, and this is where insert Rich, what would be something that's going to have the retention value of a promotional product, but really captures that moment?
Yeah.
WWE belt, my goodness, like I don't know what you were thinking or you know, adult beverage you had that day, Rich, but that's, you know, I love it. But those are one of those things is, you know, it's unique. It captures it. I'm a champion. It says I'm a champion in one way, shape, or form. I'm a champion for celebrating that achievement of a thing. So understand the experience first, then you need to pick a product that captures that experience. It's relative to that experience. Okay. And that's where it may not come to you right away because you don't know everything from a promotional product standpoint that's available.
Yeah.
That's where you pick up the phone, you call Rich and say, I need a championship belt. What do you got?
I got my last one out. So now I got that, but I got that.
Yeah, like exactly. Like I want a championship belt or something thereof, you know, give me some rings or something like that. Anyway, and then the last piece of that is in, you know, and we've talked about this in some of our other conversations, is be intentional. Have a plan. Like you said, I don't think in that particular case with the car, it was a sales rep's fault. Maybe he didn't know he had the authority to go throw me a $30 hat or whatever the case may be. I put that on the organization. Like, have an organizational, intentful plan that if these are the triggers, this is how we create that moment. So
Yeah.
understand the experience, pick a wow product and get Rich to help you with that. And then have a plan by which you don't have to think about it. You know what the triggers are to create that connection of that experience. I would say those are your 3 steps.
I think those are great steps. And just finish up with, if you've heard today and you love those stories, but you can't connect those stories to you. I know I would have that problem. It would be a challenge for me too. What I encourage you to do is let's set up a fun call. It's no obligations, there's no payments, there's no costs. Let's set up a call and let's talk about what's that consumer experience. And by consumer, I just mean buyer. What's that experience today? Let's see if we can't come up with a few cool ideas that help you figure out where there are wow moments. And let's create some samples. Let's create some free samples where we can test it. If it works and it proves valuable to your business, then we'll keep it going and we'll scale it out. And if it's not, no skin off your back, no cost to you, no risk to you. And it's just another way that we help our customers be more successful. That's all we're here for, is how can we help you be more successful? So don't be shy. Don't feel like it's too good of an offer. Our focus every single time is what can we do to be more valuable? And if it means creating some spec samples for you at no cost so that we can build this out and give you a chance to test, then please take us up on that.
Love it.